Our next piece shows that MIT professor Angela Belcher of Materials Science and Engineering and Bioengineering has an army of specially trained workers who have built, molecule by molecule, a small, flexible, rechargeable battery. Her tiny, nimble workers are viruses. Mixed with certain chemicals, they develop solid coatings and stack themselves into orderly layers, creating novel materials as well as minuscule wires, coatings, and electronic devices.
The main interest of my research group is trying to understand how nature processes materials, natural materials, and seeing what we can learn from natural biological processes and apply it to what we think are more technologically important materials. So one of the main interests of my group is making materials for energy, and so we're interested in energy storage like batteries, solar, fuel cells, and also environmentally friendly processing of materials to make things more energy efficient and to add less toxic material back into the environment.
But Mother Nature knows how to do it. As a graduate student, Belcher worked with the abalone and came to admire its ability to build a sturdy shell. On its surface, the animal has proteins that bind to materials in seawater, producing neatly ordered nanoscale tiles of calcium carbonate that form a surprisingly strong shell.
In this example, this abalone shell, this is a natural biocomposite material. It's actually made out of 98% by composition calcium carbonate, so basically chalk, but it's actually 3,000 times tougher than its geological counterpart. And what happened was about 500 million years ago, the ancestor to this organism, this marine gastropod, started grabbing calcium and carbonate out of the environment and started building this shell. And this is really fascinating because the overall mechanical properties, the chemical properties, this is actually a nanostructured material that's all made in ocean temperatures and pressures using no toxic materials and adding no toxins back into the environment. And so as a material scientist, we say, wow, what if you could use some of these same processes and instead of building a shell, build a solar cell, or build a battery, or build a fuel cell, and such that you'd be able to do it in environmentally friendly processing.
The best way to make ever smaller and more powerful electronic components is to build them molecule by molecule. However, manipulating materials at the nanoscale, a millionth of a millimeter, to get the structure and properties you want is tricky.
One of the main jobs that we need to do is to find the right combination of chemical sequences along the protein in order to build the best possible material possible. And again, we're comparing that with how an abalone or an organism that makes a shell grabs calcium out of the environment and builds it into a really exquisite structure. And so that's our job. Because through evolution and natural processes, organisms never had the opportunity to make this specific chemical interaction or biological interaction with materials, a lot of materials for inorganic materials for energy. We're going to help them with that process. And just as an example, we're going to actually use this small wafer of gold. This is a gold-coated surface. And the question is can you find a particular protein that codes for a genetic sequence, that codes for DNA, that can actually grow and assemble gold materials? Now, this is just an example. You can also think of it as being materials for solar cells, materials for batteries. But the process that we've developed allows us to quickly sort through protein and DNA genetic information space to find the protein we want to do many, many kinds of things. And so, again, this is all done on a relatively small scale. This is just a small tube that contains mostly liquid, but it also contains about a billion organisms that are all expressing proteins. And we want to see, of this billion different organisms, will one of them work to grow, in this case, gold?